Today we are working on a review of some basic graphing concepts that come from Algebra 1 and geometry. So on this first example, example 1, we have two lines. The first line is in slope-intercept form. So the y-intercept is 1, so we put a point on the y-axis at 1, and then the slope is 2/5. So we go up 2, over to the right 5. And I like to do it one more time, and then we're going to draw a line going through those points. And I would go ahead and extend it across the page. All right, so that's this first line. Now the second line is in standard form, okay? So standard form is the form ax plus by equals c. So when graphing with standard form, you can rewrite it so that y is by itself and it's in slope-intercept form, but the easier way is just to find the x and y intercepts. So to find the x-intercept, you plug in a 0 for y, and so that makes -6 times 0, which is just 0. So then you divide by 9 and you get x equals 2. So there's an x-intercept at 2. And then to find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. So 9 times 0 is 0, and then divide by -6, and you get -3. And so from there, you can set down your line into that. You can also count your slope from there. I'm going to cheat and use the little tool right here, sorry. So, and that's how you can get this line. Okay. And then where they intersect is where the solution would be. So when you're looking at a solution, it's where they intersect. All right, so look at example 2. Example 2 is a linear inequality. So you graph it just like a regular line, but the inequality symbol tells you if it's a solid or a dashed line. So if it's a less than or equal to or greater than or equal to symbol, it's a solid line. If it's a less than or greater than symbol, it is a dashed line. And then we will shade at the end. So we start at 5. And then our slope is -3, so down 3 over to the right 1, down 3 to the right 1, and so on. I'm going to go ahead and put more points than are necessary. If I was doing this on paper, I'd just use a ruler. But since I'm on my tablet and it's a little harder to draw a straight line, I'm putting way more points than I normally would. All right, so there's my line. Now, you have to shade one side or the other. Here's how you tell which side to shade. You test a point that is not on the line. So like I'm going to use 0, 0. It is a point not on the line. So I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, and I see if it is true. Okay, so 0 is less than 5. That is true. So that tells me that I should shade on this side of the line. So because when I tested the point, it is 0 is less than 5, that's what I mean by true. It is true that 0 is less than 5. So if it's true, you shade on the side of the line where that point is. And if it's false, you shade on the opposite side of the line. Okay, so down here on example 3, this is a system of linear inequalities. So that means that there is just more than one. And so we go ahead and graph each one separately. So this first one, because it's a greater than symbol, is going to have a dashed line. And so I'm going to go ahead and graph it. I start at 4. My slope's -1. And then I am going to go ahead and I am going to make a dashed line because of the greater than symbol is how I knew it was dashed. And I typically use colored pencils for the shading part so you can see where they overlap. So I'm going to pick a point not on the line to test. I like to use 0, 0 when possible because it's just easier to do the math. So 0 is greater than -0 plus 4. So that's 0 is greater than 4. That's not true. So that tells me to go ahead and shade on the opposite side of the line. So I'm going to shade over here. All right, so now we graph the other line. I'm going to do this one. So you start at -7, and then the slope is 2, and it is a solid line because it has a less than or equal to symbol. And so we're going to draw a solid line, and then we're going to test a point. Now, you can test any point. I just like to test 0, 0 because it's really easy to plug the numbers in. It just makes my life easier to do it in my head. So you don't have to do 0, 0, but if 0, 0 is not on the line, that tends to be my preferred point to test. All right, good enough right there. Okay, so if I test 0, 0, then I have 0 is less than or equal to 2 times 0 minus 7. So 0 is less than or equal to negative 7. So that's not true. 0 is bigger than negative 7. So we would shade on the other side of the blue line, not where 0, 0 is. So if you can see here, where the shading overlaps is right here. And so that's the section that in the end is shaded because that's where the two shadings overlap. Okay, and last but not least, example 4 comes from geometry. This is a circle. The standard form of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. So the h and k is the center. So my h is negative 4 because how they got x plus 4 is they have x minus negative 4. And so if you look, after the x minus, negative 4 is where h is. It's after the minus. And then after the minus, y minus, and then the k. So the center is at negative 4, 2. But honestly, what I think of in my head is that I just do the opposite symbols. And that's because of the standard form being x minus the h value. That's what makes it be the opposite. Now, the radius squared is 25. So then if you square root it, that means the radius is 5. So from the center, count to the right 5 and put a point. Count to the left 5 and put a point. Count up 5 and put a point. And then count down 5 and put a point. And then just from there, do your best to draw in your circle. Mine always ends up a little egg shape, but just we do our best. And that is your graph. So find your center and then count out your radius.